So we are recording, and we'll get started with, well, first, welcome to DevCon2020 or DevCon20. And this session is the Python and the Postman. And let's get started. So I need to click on my slide so that it will, there we go. If I say anything forward-looking, it's forward-looking, and our lawyers have asked me to show this slide so that we're not held accountable for something I say that we don't ever do. So I don't think I'm going to do that. I'm pretty much going to go over the APIs and the capabilities that we have available today. That's really what this session is about. So a little bit about me. I've been Blackboard's partner software engineer for 5 years. I'm the technical liaison between Blackboard and third-party vendors that have partnered with us. I was formerly a Blackboard Learn admin and developer at California State University, Chico. And if you're a developer and admin, I feel your pain. Prior to that, I worked at Hewlett Packard for about 11 years, and I actually wrote a piece of code that we got a US patent for. I think HP owns the patent, but my name is there. And that was a fun time. And I am a grandfather. I've run 6 marathons. I still would love to run, but I have a back sciatica, so I can't. So I walk and hike, and I also play a lot of computer games. And I'm into science fiction. The reference on the left there is I'm holding up a device that, if you think about the old means of integrating with Blackboard Learn, we'd like you to forget about that. So that's what we're doing here. can't get DevCon, but sciatica, no problem. So our agenda today, we're going to talk about REST applications for Blackboard Learn. And if you want to know about LTI, I would suggest that you attend one of Eric Preston's sessions on LTI Advantage and Blackboard Learn. We had one today, and I think we have one tomorrow and one on Thursday. So we'll talk about registering an application on the developer portal. I'm going to do, since we have only 10 people on here, I'm going to do a quick poll and see how many of you have registered a application on the developer portal. If I can spell developer. Carla, let's take a minute. Please do answer this. It'll just help me know where you all are. I won't go too much further until we get at least 90% response. Okay, about half of you, it looks like, have done so. So we will take a look at that today. Okay, I think I'll end the poll at this point. Thank you. Turbo Pascal. Yeah, I remember Turbo Pascal. Okay, I'm in the chat too much probably. So then after we've registered, we'll show you how to use Postman a bit, how to get the APIs from Blackboard into Postman, how to authenticate, and then how to make calls. I did, if you look, I have put in the course, let's see, if we click that down arrow here, I actually put some under Postman here, I put some Word documents that have recordings. They have recordings for doing what I'm going to show you today. So feel free to go to those Word docs and read them, and they have the details there. So you can check those out if you don't want to watch this entire Collaborate session. There are recordings here that are short versions, about 10 minutes each. Okay, and then we'll show you how to use Python. And for Python, I use Matt Dickhine's BB REST Python package to make the REST API calls. His package basically does a similar thing to Python or to the Postman, where you can actually pull in all of the APIs. Excuse me. You can actually pull in all of the APIs, and they're just there to make calls to learn, so you don't actually have to write any Python code for the actual call making. You just have to call his functions that basically have pulled in the Blackboard functions. So let's talk about registering and setup and an application for Blackboard. Everything is on the developer.blackboard.com. We call that the developer portal. And you can see here I'm on the portal here, and I've logged in. You'll create an account and you'll log in. And one thing I wanted to show you that took me a while to figure out is that your first name and your last name that you see here that you've registered your account with, when you install that, when you install an application, a REST application, and to learn that first name, last name are what shows up in as the developer in Blackboard. So if you want, say you want Blackboard Inc. to show up as a developer, you do Blackboard Inc. I did 007 Inc. As my first name and last name on my portal account. So all you do is once you're here and you're logged in, you go to register, and then my session has expired, so I will log in again. And I have two accounts. I have a Gmail account and I have a Blackboard account. And what's it complaining about here? Stop it. Go. So the app I'm using for this demo is the Calc2020 app. You can see that also here. That's the application name. But when you want to create a new one, you just go up here and you click the little plus sign up here, and you're going to give it a name and a description, and you want to pick a domain. That's the domain where the application is running at. You can, I have a domain that I use, but you could do like, I believe they're comma separated. That's what it says. If you don't know how to separate it, it's over here in gray. That's a domain that I've registered. You have these things called groups. You create over up here under my groups. You create groups. When you take your application to production, you're going to want to create a group that you call it. Let's say I was using Avinet as my company name. I would call the group Avinet after my company, and then I would file a ticket with Blackboard and say, I want this group to be my production group, and then we'll set for that production group, we'll set site limits and rate limits higher than what you get when you're just doing development. We have to limit how much we hand out for free for development or developers as they're developing, and then when you go into production, you can ask for, like I think you get 25 sites as a developer, but when you're putting something into production, you say, okay, this is my production group, and then we'll bump you up to 50 sites. And I may have the numbers off a bit, but that's what's happening. And it's through a behind the Blackboard ticket. If you're a client, you can file behind the Blackboard tickets. If you're a Blackboard partner, you can file behind the Blackboard tickets. Now you notice down here there's a we just added this not too long ago. There's a My Integration Supports LTI 1.3. For this demo, I'm using one that doesn't support LTI 1.3. When you do LTI 1.3, then you click that on, and then you have to fill out some additional information for LTI. And if you attend Eric's session tomorrow, he'll explain those to you. I'm not even going to register this one. I've already got one registered. I just wanted to show you how to do that. So once you've registered, you're going to get, well, maybe I will register it. I'll just click submit. You're going to get a page where you get your application key. This is what's installed in the Blackboard Learn system. The Blackboard Learn administrator, nobody else except you gets the key and the secret. You don't want to share these with anyone, because if you do share them with people, then they could be making calls to somebody's Blackboard Learn system and doing really bad things, but the Blackboard Learn admin would think it's you. So you don't want somebody impersonating your REST application. So you keep your key and your secret to yourself as a developer. Okay, next. So then the setup and learn then is to take this one. I'm not gonna I'm gonna copy the key here, and I'm just gonna show you, but I'm not actually gonna run code against it. I'll just hit done here. Now back on my learn system, I can go create integration, and I can fill in my application ID that I just got off of the portal. And so this is what you'd share with the Blackboard Learn administrators that want to use your REST application, is the application ID. And then the other piece is the Learn user. It's some user on the Learn system that has been given a system role that, if you're using two-legged authentication, which we'll talk about in a bit, the system role needs to have the privileges that have the entitlements to do the things that your REST application does. If you're using three-legged authentication, the person using your application with three-legged integration will three-legged authorization will log in to Learn, and then they can do anything that they could normally do on the system with your application. So this user can be just a simple student user that you've made up for the integration that has no system role whatsoever, and it will work with the three-legged authentication. So if I use your app and you're doing three-legged authentication and I'm an admin on the Learn system, the app will be able to make REST API calls as if I were the Learn admin. If I were an instructor, then it would basically see the content that it could only do the things that instructor could do. So for ease of demonstration, I always pick my user which has admin rights, but that's not what you want to do in a production environment. I'm gonna hit submit just so you can see what's it complaining. Good, application not found. Did I not type something correctly? Is something broken? Let's go back to manage your applications. Demo app name does cool stuff. Oh, look, I missed a one. So that's the kind of thing that could happen. Like if you miss a number of the application ID, then you'll get a message like that. This wasn't by design, but it was a good act so that you could see the error and how to look for how to fix it. There, now the demo app's here, and I'm still the developer, so all right, I'm just going to delete that. Okay, so now we've created a REST app on the developer portal, and we've registered it on the Learn system. Here it's Calc20. So now what we want to do is we want to make calls to that Learn system, and an easy way to do that is with Postman. Postman is a tool that there's probably other tools like that. I haven't researched like what else is out there, but this one is a nice one. A lot of folks use it, so I thought I would learn how to use it and then demo its use. So, but before we get into Postman, I just want to talk a little bit more about the two-legged and three-legged authentication. With two-legged, what happens is the application, which in this case will be Postman, or that'll be the client, will make a HTTP request to the token endpoint with the key and the secret. Those are the client credentials. And Blackboard Learn comes back with a response that has an access token. And then from then on out, Postman is making requests, REST requests. So you get a post, a patch, or a put. Those are the HTTP verbs that are used to make REST requests, and it will use that token to make those requests. The token has a lifetime of 60 minutes, and it will time out, and you have to pay attention to that, refresh it. The BB REST package that Matt DeKine wrote takes care of that for you. That's one nice reason to use it, or you can write the code yourself. Scott's written that a few times, I believe, and we've got demo code out there too. And then you get after you make the REST request, you get the response with the data. With three-legged authentication, this is out on docs.blackboard.com. Scott wrote this very helpful description of the workflow, and I'll just go over it quickly. Well, the first thing that happens is the user it's using your REST application over here. Oops, and I didn't want to do that. And then the REST app makes a request for an authorization code. And what happens is the user is required to log into Blackboard Learn. That's the Blackboard user authorizes. Oh, the user authorizes, actually that's before that. The user has to authorize the Blackboard to do this with the application. You won't see that because I've got the cookies in my browser already when we do it. Once the user is authorized, then Learn will give a code. It'll send a code back to the web application, and that'll be Postman 2. And then the web application then requests it's an access token. Requests a token, which is the same kind of token. The token looks similar to what we just saw in the two-legged, because then once you get the token, then you just use that same token for the rest of your REST API requests. And I'll go over this with the Postman and with BB REST, the Python code, so that you can see it. Because right now it's the other place that is really helpful to understand the different authorization mechanisms is the OAuth Bible. I just wanted to mention that too. It's this content, and he does a really good job of explaining two-legged and three-legged and the refresh and a refresh token, which I'm not even going to talk about that as presentation. Okay, so we're getting to the demo. We're going to show you importing Blackboard Learn APIs. We're going to do a two-legged OAuth 2. We're going to make some REST API requests, and then we're going to do a three-legged OAuth 2, and then we'll do some REST API requests. So let's get to the demo. So here's Postman, and here's my practice run. So I took some notes. These notes are in the course, and I don't have them memorized, so I have to, well, especially some of these links, I have to So we're going to import the, when you go to docs.blackboard.com, here, explore APIs, you'll see a bunch of documentation for all of the APIs that we support, I hope. I hope somebody's not hogging my internet. I might have to go yell at my kids. And try this again. Yeah, that worked. Hit the explore button. I hope we're not having a problem with the portal. I have a backup plan if we are. All right, is everything else working? That seems to work. Okay, our developer portal doesn't seem too happy right now. I'm not sure what that's about.
I think I just saw an email that the 3800.16 releases process is starting, so it might be updating this website.
All right, so if that's the case, what we'll do is I'll just show you how you do this, and if it's hung doing it, I'll just show you what happens after you do it, because I've got, oh, look, there it is. Oh, look at that. Did it? Okay, I'm just going to carry on because we've got, yeah, there's the list of APIs. Here's where you see all of the APIs, and what we're going to have Postman do is pull these in. There's the authorization code endpoint that I mentioned. There's the token endpoint, and then basically anything else you want to do with Blackboard Learn. I think Mark O'Neill could tell us how fleshed it out it is, but it's pretty close to fully baked. So what you do is you go with your Postman, you go to import, and then you click on link. It's not really clear that these are tabs, but once you've used Postman a bit, you get used to it. So you click on link, and then you can go and take the link for our server, our developer portal, and you can specify a version, and I'm going to use 3800.11 because that's the version that of the Learn server that I'm working with. And you just hit continue, and then what you do is you go here and you click, you deselect the API, you just want the collection, and then you hit the import button. And now it doesn't look like anything is happening at first, but I think if we wait a few seconds, and hopefully it's just a few seconds, it'll tell us that the import is complete. And we'll see I'm going to close some of these windows while we're doing this. Just so you can see their new windows. I want to delete it. There it is. There it is. Custom collection learn APIs imported down in the lower right of the screen. Okay. So it imported this is the collection here over on the left. It's called Learn APIs, and what I do is I rename it. I rename it to be the version of Learn that I've imported. So I always go like so. So now I know that that's the, there it is. There's my collection, and it's all of the APIs that we saw on the developer portal, which is really nice because then you don't actually have to like import them one at a time or write out the API yourself. It's just pulled them all in. And then here's one that you can, well, so then the next thing you want to do is you want to set up an environment. And so you go to this gear over here, manage environments, and you add a new environment. And we'll just call it DevCon2020 so that we can watch PowerPoint mangle the DevCon name again. So then what you do is you do a FQDN variable and you give it the value of the domain name for the server that you want to Postman to make requests to. And then you get the base URL and you put the HTTPS value there because the APIs get imported with those two as the and I got to make sure I don't have an extra space there. Yeah, I did. That's one thing you have to look out for when you do copy and paste is for everything here is like if you have a domain name or a key or a secret and you paste it in, you copy it out of some document and you paste it over somewhere else, it's happened to me often enough that I'm pretty cognizant of looking for leading and trailing spaces because that can really cause you problems. So you just want to be on the lookout for that. So once you've got the FQDN and the base URL, you just hit add. And what did I call it? I called this DevCon2020. So I might think I need to hit add again, but all I need to do is hit the X. And then we're using that environment to make our calls. So now we can go over here to our collection and we could go to API public v1, and I'll like to show off this one because this is the one API call that you can make that doesn't require a authentication. It's the Learn API public v1 system version. And we can just send that to our system, the one that we just set up in our environment variables. You just hit the send button, and there it is. It made the request. It made that request. It did a GET request to that endpoint, and we've got our version back. Okay, so now we can try something a little different. We could go to say users, and we can do get users. Now what happens here is if I just hit the send button, you'll see that I got a message back that says the request is not authenticated. So when you see that, you go, well, what do I do? Well, you go to the authorization tab, and what we're going to do is we're going to use the helper from the collection that we just created, and we just click on that. Now we're going to use, there's a whole bunch of things here. It's OAuth 2.0 that we're using. That's the Postman language for the one that we want to use. And then we hit get new access token. It's a bearer token. And then we're going to do two-legged authentication first. So we're not using the authorization code. We're using client credentials. And what that means is the client credentials are the client ID and the client secret that we got when we registered on the portal. Those are the credentials. It's like your username and your password, only it's client credentials. And On the Blackboard Learn system itself, all there is the application ID, and between the developer portal and your REST application running, well, here I'm running Postman, and Blackboard Learn, it knows that this key and secret are the one that are associated with that application ID that you installed and learned. And we just set as a basic auth header. So we just hit request token, and we got our access token. You notice it's some value, kind of an opaque value, and then we're going to use this token for every REST request that we make from here on out using our two-legged authentication, and it has an expires date. We just say use token, and we hit update, and now we can go back to our get requests and say get users. We want to get users again. This is still, we're on the get users example. I hit send. Now I got a different error, and what it's complaining about here is by default it's set up to send all of these parameters that you can send with the request, but for this simple example we don't need to send any parameters. So one thing I don't like about the Postman UI here is unless somebody knows of a way to deselect all of these, or maybe I could Google that for myself, just uncheck them all. And now when I hit send, now you can see that I'm authorized and I got it. I got the JSON response, all of the users on the system. So that's the two-legged authentication flow where we did use client credentials and we got an access token, and then we use that access token to make the request. Now the next example is doing three-legged authorization, where first we get an authorization code and then we get the access token, and then we use that access token to make the requests. So what you do for three-legged with Postman, which this is actually pretty cool, they inserted their server in the middle, and you do have to make sure that you just did the two-legged, here we are with the three-legged. Beware of pop-up blockers. Your browser, if you've got a pop-up blocker and it's blocking pop-ups from auth.postman.io, you'll have problems with this. So you took me a while to catch that. It was like something was happening and it wasn't working, and I finally saw that my pop-up blocker had a little icon that something had been blocked, and I said, oh, I just need to turn that off, and then it worked fine. So we'll go back here to authorization. We're going to do the same request, get users. We're just going to do it with three-legged. So authorization, we do the same thing here, and we do get new access token, but in this case we want to use the authorization code, and we want to, if this isn't checked, you want to check authorize using browser, and you still want this basic auth header, and then you go to, I'm going to log out of this system here so that you can see me getting asked to log in with the three-legged OAuth flow. So I'm logged out here. I'll even just close that now. Okay. So I'm going to say request access token. What's going to happen is Postman's first going to go to the authorization code endpoint. It's going to get the code, and then it's going to use that code to get a token. So here we go. And you notice I still have to have the client ID and secret here. So I hit the request token, and Postman did its cool thing and said sign in through browser. You can kind of see what's going on if you look at the URL in the browser address field. You can see that you'll notice one thing that they're doing is they're redirecting back to auth.postman.io, and then that's sending me back to the Postman application running on my desktop. But here I just sign in with my I don't know what the instructor can see because it's doing the get users request. may break some things. I've been signing in with my admin account, but we'll just try this. Oh, okay, that's not going to work because you notice what happens if you fail to sign into the system is the three-legged OAuth is broken, and Scott tells me he wants a ticket on this. So we're going to start over again here. We're going to hit cancel, and we're going to try again. And I'm just going to use my admin account for the three-legged OAuth. So we'll hit sign in, and what's going to happen now is we get redirected back to the redirect URI, which is Postman server actually, and then that's going to send us back to the Postman app running on my desktop, and then that's going to get the access token. So you see the code there? It's showing the code that's being sent back. Hit open Postman app. Now this code has the code, and now it's going to get the access token. And we've got a token now, and I can just say use token just like I did before with the two-legged. Hit update. So now I've used Postman to do three-legged authentication. That took a little Google searching, so I hope this helps you with that. Okay, we're done with the Postman demo. We've done all of the things that we outlined here on the Postman demo. So, and we have a bit of time now to go to looking at Python and Matthew DeKine's BB-REST package. I don't know if you're familiar with Python, but you can install it by just going to www.python.org and installing it. BB-REST is out on GitHub, and these are a match made in heaven. The code is out on the GitHub repository. You can pull that into your onto your local system and use it. I have to say it's a bit Mac centric. You might have to look at virtual environments, VENV for a Windows system. You might have to tweak, do some Google searching to get it working on a Windows system. I just went ahead and used the Mac. So I'm going to close Postman out here. I guess I can close that now. Close this. And now get rid of that. Okay. So there's a little tool called Jupyter Notebook that is kind of fun for working with Python code to try just a few lines of code. And there's a notebook in the Git repository. It's set up, and you can just run, you can install Jupyter per their instructions and then run Jupyter Notebook. Or actually, I think if you run the pip install requirements, you might get the notebook with it. When you run a new notebook, what happens is you get a browser to come up. There it is. It's a browser to your local system. It's served off of 8888, and the notebook itself is this IPNYB. Just click that. And I've got the requirements.txt file for Python in that Git repository, so you will get the BB-REST package with the install. Well, first of all, I wanted to show you how to make a request to Blackboard Learn without using BB-REST at all. So your Python has a package called requests, and if you're looking at code that doesn't use BB-REST, it'll have this where it's setting up its URL and then making the request using the request package. So let's just do that. Click run, and there's the output. And if you wanted to do a different request and you wanted to get your authentication and whatnot, you could do that and then basically get it done that way. So here's using the BB-REST package. I have my key and my secret. and my system. These are the same things that I set up in Postman, and now I'm doing them with Python. And so what I'm doing here is I'm getting a new BBREST object. I can get my expiration, and then I can make that same get users call. The call will return response, and we want to check that the response is 200, which is a good response, and then I can see the JSON. So we'll just run this. I just hit the run, and it takes a minute, and there we go. We got the 200 status code from the making the request, and then we've got the results here, the users on the system. The nice thing about this is that this BBREST package will handle the expiration. If when the hour is about up, and then after it hits the hour, it'll automatically or automagically refresh the token for you. So you don't have to add code to pay attention to that, and that's a good thing. Let's see. Okay, so the next thing is, oh, here, this is just showing the expiration. I did do a three-legged authentication here. I did, at one point I was looking at attempts in a gradebook. I don't have any on this system, but I was able to easily set up Python code to look at the gradebook attempts on a system just with this Jupyter Notebook. So that's using Jupyter Notebook. Let's close that out. I think I just want to hit the quit button here, and that'll shut down the Jupyter server. So now I actually have to kill this. So besides using Jupyter Notebook, another great way for developing Python code is using Visual Studio Code, VS Code from Microsoft. Microsoft did one really cool, great thing in the last 10 years, and that was to release this product. It works with a lot of different languages. I was doing Elixir code a couple years ago, and it worked with Elixir, and it works with Python, and it works with Node.js, so it's a really sweet tool. And what we have here is also using BBREST, and what it does is it will create a link where we pretty much finished the code. Scott hurried, Davey, help me with his last name, Scott. Davey. There we go. That. Yeah, Davey and Scott and I have been working on code to take these collaborate sections, download them, and then upload them into Panopto, and then get a link from Panopto and put that in the course. And this is a bit of that code where it's the REST API called put content in a course that has a link, a URL link in it. So I think what I want to do here is get my browser open to my server, and we'll have time for questions. This is pretty much the last demonstration. I always call them something dash ultra, so I know that's an ultra course without looking at the. Okay, so there's nothing here in the course, right? And if we go here and we look at the code, what it's going to do is create a link at the root of the course content, and that's basically at the top. And well, it's going to create content. Here's what the content payload looks like. So that's the body, the request body, or actually it's the body of the post, and the post request. And so we've got that payload set up, and we're just going to simply call bb create child, and then pass it in the course ID, the content ID, which will be root, and the payload. The payload being that body there. And so I wrote that's actually the link content creator. That's the class that will create links in a course. Then I wrote another script that basically parses the command line and calls that. So I actually leveraged this code from something that Panopto shared as an example. There's other parsers available. This is one that is called argparse, which is out on PyPy, and it parses command lines. So what you do is from your command line, you can just do, if you just do that, well, it's supposed to complain and tell me what the parameters are. There it is. It's saying you need to pass it a course ID, a link, a title, and a description. So we can just do that. I think you can see, there we go. I'm going to use call Python, do use content creator.py, pass in the course ID, which is course ID colon mbk-ultra. I think you could just pass in the pk1 here without the course ID colon and it would do it, but this is a nice way to do it. It's user friendly. Pass in the link URL, pass in the title, and pass in a description. So we just do that, we hit enter. And we can see we got back the JSON indicating that we did in fact create some content and that it's there and it's available, and we can go take a look at it. So the one thing that is true is that the REST APIs aren't going to tell your browser to update. So you have to, if you push something into the course with the REST API, you're going to need to update the browser or refresh it by doing that. Now, don't make a liar out of me. There it is. There's the content we just created with using Python and the REST APIs and the BB REST Python package. And now we can click on it, and of course we're going to pop open a new window and go to our website. Okay, it's 10 of, and I would say, do you have any questions? I think I will. No, I don't want to stop sharing my screen. I'll just look over here and I'll take questions. Feel free to throw something into chat or open your mic up, whatever you'd like. Also, if you think of something later, I am going to be, I'll be keeping an eye on the course, and there is a discussion area. I think we put up some discussions here, so you can ask questions to Python, Postman or Python questions as the week goes by. Oh, you're welcome, Scott. That was I was in Michigan, and I don't know if I had started my work week yet or not, but I just wanted to do something. So Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, Postman's cool because it gives you all of the parameters uh, and the API is all right there after you import our stuff. Thank you, Jane. You're welcome, Deborah. Well, everyone have a good rest of your week. Look forward to seeing you in some of the other great sessions we have at DevCon 2020. Hey, I got it. You're welcome, Kareen. All right, see you, Scott. See you in 10. You bet. All right, I'll stop recording now, and